Good afternoon and welcome to the COVID-19 update on Channels Television. I'm Millicent Nwaka. First, some of the highlights. Today, Nigeria celebrates Democracy Day as President Muhammadu Buhari commiserates with Nigerians who lost loved ones during the COVID-19 pandemic. Nigeria records higher cases of single-day infection of coronavirus. And Latin America has now recorded more than 1.5 million COVID-19 cases and 70,000 deaths. It's Nigeria's Democracy Day. Here's wishing all Nigerians in the country and around the world the very best. Let's tell you a little story about today, June 12. It was set aside by the federal government to honor the late businessman and politician Moshood Abiola, believed to have won the 1993 presidential election, and it didn't start happening today. In fact, this is the second time Democracy Day is being celebrated on June the 12th since the return of democracy in 1999, as it was previously marked on May the 29th, and that's Inauguration Day. Now, following that decision, the House of Representatives on December 6, 2018, passed the bill seeking to amend the Holiday Act, which was also passed by the Senate on May the 16, 2019, after a voice vote. Last year, when we first marked Democracy Day at this date, there were celebrations, program of activities held at the Eagle Square in Abuja, but with the outbreak of COVID-19. The Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has said that we should mark the day in solemn and reflective manner, and a reminder to the individual and collective responsibility to remain COVID-19 free. The President, Muhammadu Buhari, has been addressing the nation as the country commemorates Democracy Day today. He used the occasion to commiserate with those who lost loved ones in the COVID-19 pandemic, saying that government, through the Presidential Task Force, is doing its best to ensure proper management of the coronavirus situation in the country. The President was speaking earlier today in his broadcast to the nation.
The year 2020 has been like none other. In January 2020, the COVID-19 was declared a global pandemic by the World Health Organization. The number of global infections have risen from less than 8,000 shared between China and 18 other countries to over 7 million, spread over 216 countries and on all continents. Nigeria recorded its first case of COVID-19 on February 27, 2020, and within the first 100 days, I have had cause to address the nation on 3 occasions within 1 month, which underscores the gravity of this pandemic. There is no doubt that this pandemic has affected the global economy and all known socio-economic systems. It has also brought grief and pain to families that have lost their loved ones. Like many Nigerians, I feel the grief and pain, not only as your president, but also as someone who has lost a close member of my staff and some relatives and friends. In order to have a robust national response, I approved a presidential task force on COVID-19 to provide guidance and leadership in tackling the pandemic nationwide. State governments also constituted their own COVID-19 task forces. Complementing this was the establishment of a National Emergency Operations Center responsible for providing technical and professional guidance in the national response. The overall objective of the PTF COVID-19 is to ensure that the pandemic does not overwhelm our health systems while ensuring that we maintain an effective case management system to help in containing the spread of the virus.
Let's look at what today means, and this is also as we celebrate Democracy Day in line with our healthcare systems and the COVID-19 pandemic. We have a public affairs analyst, Mr. Monday Obani. He joins us via Skype. Thank you for joining us on the program. Happy Democracy Day to you.
Thank you, Millicent. Same over here. Thank you for having me.
All right. Now, it appears to be a solemn celebration, around the country as we battle the COVID-19 pandemic. It's also a difficult time for a lot of people who are living a new life, so to speak. But what's your observation on our overall response to the COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, at the beginning of this year, I don't think any person in the world, especially for us in Nigeria, we're expecting what actually befell us with the pandemic. Remember the total lockdown, businesses were clearly disrupted. People were in total confusion. It got to a stage that some of us were very scared even to step out of our houses because of the story of the pandemic. It became so scary. Thank God for return of normal life. As a result of the unlocking of the entire economy gradually by the government. But I am telling you that it was very scary at the moment, at that time. And people, lost, a lot of things in terms of job. People were not even expecting it without any money in their homes, no money in their pocket. And we have been asked to stay at home. And the government also did not help matter in terms of palliatives. But over time, we are really adjusting to the pandemic, and we're trying to probably live with the pandemic within us. Nigerians are moving now. We're back to life, gradually. And so the government also eventually can give them some level of kudos in the way they've been dishing out information and then warning Nigerians to observe the protocols so that we can stay alive. It's only a living soul that can praise God.
The president put a lot of confidence in his team, the presidential task force, to handling the response. But in terms of, assessment as to how far they've gone, the question is, because we are still seeing a lot of cases and, there have been questions with regards to our healthcare systems handling it in totality. There's also the fact that we did survive during the Ebola crisis, but then what did government learn at that time? Do you think anything would change even after the COVID-19?
Well, I granted an interview recently and I made a statement, and that statement is very important for leaders to actually know something of what I said. Now, if we get over this particular pandemic, especially with this coronavirus, and our leaders still insist and still believe that the only way they can actually take care of their health is going abroad, then I will have this belief that there is something fundamentally wrong with us as a nation. If we didn't learn anything from Ebola, after we overcame Ebola, I had thought that our leaders will, fix first-class international hospitals in Nigeria so that our leaders and our Nigerians can begin to get quality health services here. We didn't learn anything from it. But from this pandemic, where nobody is allowed to go abroad anymore for health issues, we should learn a lesson that the thing to do for us as a nation now is to set up best hospitals all over the regions of this country in order to ensure that Nigerians begin to avail themselves quality health services. It's very important. If we fail in this after the end of this pandemic, then believe me, something is fundamentally wrong with us as a people and as a nation.
Finally, as well, this is as a legal practitioner, your thoughts on the Control of Infectious Diseases Bill, saying that this is the way one arm of government feels that it can catch up with the outbreak of COVID-19.
No, are you referring to the new bill that is being debated?
Yes.
Well, I've been following up the development in the House and then the controversy that the bill is generating, and then I think there was a House, they held public hearing either yesterday or 2 days ago, where people made their input, including the NCDC DG, who also made a statement that, look, you are ascribing so many powers that I don't even deserve in that bill. And so many other stakeholders like the governors and other people spoke and made some suggestions for an amendment. I think the issue of fundamental human rights, that is also an issue that, if the bill is passed the way it is presently, it's going to breach the rights of Nigerian citizens. We need to look at that bill in totality and listen to the advice and counsel and wisdom of stakeholders who have made some suggestions for amendment, so that we can have a control of what shall be proud of. We don't want a situation where somebody will be forced to go and take any vaccination. Let it be something that you do willingly. So let's take a holistic look at that bill once again and agree with some of the major stakeholders in order to solve and ease the controversy that is presently trailing the bill. And I think we can get it right at the mission. It's important we have the bill, but let's do it in such a manner that the rights of citizens are not violated.
Mr. Vandu Bani, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Now, the number of COVID-19 cases in the country is standing at 14,554 after the country recorded higher infections last night, with the NCDC announcing 681 cases. According to the centre, 4,494 of the patients have recovered, and the death toll is put at 387. Of that number, Lagos has over half of the new cases, 345, followed by Rivers State with 51. Ogun State recorded 48, Gombe 47, Oyo 36, Imo 31, Delta 28, Kano 23, Bauchi 18, Edo and Katsina States 12 each, Kaduna 9, Anambra 7, Jigawa 5, Kebbi and Ondo 4 each, and Nasarawa 1 case. Looking at the regional breakdown, Lagos State in the southwest now has 6,611 cases. The FCT in the North Central recorded no new case, but stands at 1,097 cases. Kano leads in the northwest with 1,048 cases. Edo is leading in the south-south with 478 cases. Borno still tops in the northeast with 385 cases. Ebonyi maintains 152 cases, leading in the southeast. While schools remain closed nationwide to support learning during the pandemic, the Lagos State government has received support with 20,000 devices donated by a corporate body for online teaching and learning. Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu received the devices at the Lagos House Marina, where he stated that the initiative is part of measures aimed at actualizing his theme's agenda in the provision of 1 million devices to school children in order to improve their learning output.
Whilst our permanent secretaries, our Tutor General, the likes of Sherifat, will ensure that this is not put to waste, because that is the most important thing. Technology is only anything on the shelf, is what you put it to. It's the use you put it to that is important. It cannot speak for itself. It's only when you activate and use it that you can give it a real life. So at the end of the day, we can speak all the grammar, we can push all of these equipments and appliances to be available, but it is left for you to ensure that the learning outcomes and the skills that is required of these things come to reality. Because it will amount to waste of both resources and time if we don't see the output and the outcomes in the number of distinctions that we see in our students, in the number of the quality of the tomorrow that we want to begin to build for these children, and in the number of ability to want to use technology as a strong enabler for their tomorrow.
More about the global response to COVID-19 when we return. Welcome back to the program, and we have Daniel Winter, DW correspondent. He joins us from Berlin. Hi, Daniel. We understand the pandemic has affected a lot of sectors in the EU, with the European Commission calling for border reopening. What, in your estimation, has been the area hardest hit? All right, we're going to try and connect again to you, Daniel. Apologize for that. But let's tell you what's happening. This is at the Federal Capital Territory. Channels Media Group is lending a hand to efforts at cushioning the effect of COVID-19 on the poor and vulnerable in the nation's capital, with a donation of 400 bags of rice to the Federal Capital Territory Administration. Receiving the items, the Minister of State for the FCT commended the philanthropic gesture, saying the items will boost the fourth round of the administration's palliative distribution.
Top management staff of Channels Media Group arriving at the Minister's wing at the Federal Capital Territory Development Authority complex. The team brings a truckload of rice, which is meant to be distributed by the FCT administration to the poor and vulnerable in the nation's capital.
To acknowledge the efforts of the administration in tackling the COVID-19 pandemic. We also applaud the efforts of the organization in reaching out to the vulnerable people. It is in identification of this fact that the Channels Media Group wants to partner with you to reach out to the vulnerable, especially within the FCT.
For the Federal Capital Territory Administration, the gesture is coming at the right time as a new set of vulnerable persons have been identified.
They've just once again demonstrated that they do care. It's not about reporting this time around, but it's about exercising their corporate social responsibility. And they're here today to tell the people of Federal Capital Territory that indeed a friend in need is a friend indeed. I know as easy as we could say the lockdown is eased, it is not easy starting all over. How many days have we been under lock? How many days have we been at home? And yet, even businesses are still skeletal. This will go a long way to cushion this effect and to support families to hold body and soul. Thank you very much. We appreciate, and on behalf of the management of the Federal Capital Territory and the Honorable Minister Alhaji Mohammed Bello, I say we appreciate you and thank you very much indeed.
The FCT administration is set for the fourth phase of distribution of palliatives to the poor and vulnerable in the nation's capital. And the donation by the Channels Media Group is timely to ensure that more households in need of relief materials are reached.
Until now that Daniel Winter, DW correspondent, is back with us. He joins us from Berlin. Hello, Daniel. We can see you. Hope you can hear us.
Yes, I can.
All right, great. So the pandemic, it's affected a lot of sectors in the EU. We understand the European Commission is calling for border reopening. A lot of countries are reacting differently. But what, in your estimation, has been the area hardest hit?
Well, I mean, Germany has seen a 30% drop in its exports. Now, that has been completely unprecedented since records began going back to the 1950s. So we're even feeling it here in Germany, in Europe's economic engine, you could say. But also tourism in particular as a branch has really suffered all across Europe. I mean, we're seeing flights in Europe down 90%, hotel occupancy rates down to a tenth of what they were before the crisis. And that's why we're seeing cuts across the tourism industry, and those companies are really suffering right now.
We understand Lufthansa is seeing a major job cuts, and but we also know that there is a bailout that's supposed to repair things.
Yes, that's right. So we've seen job cuts at Lufthansa, for example, 22,000 full-time job cuts and 26,000 if you include the part-time job cuts there as well. And what's made this particularly controversial is because the state here is trying to get involved. The German state is going to pay 9 billion euros in order to buy 20% of Lufthansa's shares. So the state is getting involved. We've seen this as an example across Europe as well. Many states are getting involved, helping out their airlines too. But what is particularly controversial here is the opposition that's coming from politicians throughout, across the political spectrum, because they see that it's not acceptable if state aid is pumped into companies and then they go ahead and just make job cuts. After all, if state is intervening, then perhaps they should help to keep these jobs afloat. That's the argument anyway.
So how much good news is coming with regards to the reduction in the coronavirus cases, and this is across Europe?
Well, it's difficult to say because we're seeing borders starting to reopen in Germany, France, Spain, for example, and this is relaxing those rules, allowing tourists to come into the country, for example. But when we look to the airlines, this patchwork of regulation is really making it very difficult for them to get back into business. So the UK, for example, is still imposing a 2-week quarantine for any travellers who enter the country. So there's not such good news there. And particularly for airlines, IATA, for example, explains that the industry will not get back in the air on 100% until 2023. So it's an extremely damaging crisis for them. And that's why we're seeing job cuts, even though economies are starting to reopen.
All right, Daniel Winter, thank you so much for talking to us, DW correspondent there from Berlin. And Latin America has now recorded more than 1.5 million virus cases and 70,000 deaths. Brazil has surpassed 40,000 deaths from coronavirus and 800,000 cases. Here's more on our global update.
The number of virus-related deaths in Brazil now stands at 40,919, after another 1,239 fatalities were recorded over the past 24 hours. More than 30,000 new confirmed cases were registered, taking the toll to 802,828, second only to the United States with more than 2 million cases. These latest figures come on the same day that the country's two biggest cities, Sao Paulo and Rio de Janeiro, reopened shopping malls. Argentina has confirmed more than 1,000 new cases of coronavirus as the rate of new infections continue to rise just days after it extended lockdown measures in the capital Buenos Aires, the country's largest city and epicenter of the virus. The country has a total of 24,761 cases and 717 deaths since the outbreak began in early March. The island nation of Cuba is looking forward to reopening its borders, but the government says it will do so in phases. Prime Minister Manuel Marrero Cruz says the reopening will be limited at first to the beach resort at the Keys of the Caribbean's largest island.
And from the NCDC, while they work to provide Nigerians with verified information on infectious diseases, the team continues to monitor misinformation on the COVID-19. The centre says you can help out by submitting rumours on its new reporting platform. The website has all the information, statistics across states with regular updates on the COVID-19 regulations and guidelines. From the World Health Organization, you'll find the disease situation dashboard, an interactive map providing the latest global numbers, and there are strategies on the website and plans each moment it's being updated. Our website, channelstv.com, has the latest news. All you need to do is log on, access news in health, politics, business, sports, Africa, and around the world. And that's a COVID-19 update from all of us here at Channels Television. Happy Democracy Day. I'm Millicent Walker. Continue to stay safe and stay healthy.